The scream, not human, not animal, but something torn from a nightmare, finally broke our paralysis.
I grabbed Sarah's arm, my finger sticking into her skin, and we ran. We didn't choose a direction. We just fled, plunging back into the suffocating darkness of the woods.
Behind us, the forest erupted in a symphony of growls. They weren't just behind us anymore. They were everywhere, flanking us, closing in.
The sound of heavy bodies crashing through the undergrowth, snapping branches, was deafening. We didn't dare look back.
The air was thick with the scent of pine and something else. Something rotten and ancient. We burst from the tree line, gasping for breath, our lungs on fire.
The house, our house, stood silhouetted against the weak moonlight, a distant beacon of safety. We scrambled across the manicured lawn, our feet slipping on the dew-slicked grass. And then the music started again.
That same discordant carousel tune, but faster this time, more frantic, a gleeful, maddening cheer for the hunt.
It was chasing us, propelling us forward with a fresh wave of terror. We reached the back door, fumbling with the lock, our hands shaking uncontrollably.
The door slammed shut behind us just as a tremendous, heavy weight thudded against it, the wood groaning in protest. We threw every bolt, every lock we had, our backs pressed against the trembling door. For the next 2 hours, we were prisoners. The world outside our walls was a hellscape of sound.
The creatures, whatever they were, circled the house relentlessly.
Their guttural snarls vibrated through the floorboards.
We could hear the scrape and scratch of claws on the siding, on the windows, a constant agonizing torment. They were testing the perimeter, searching for a way in. And through it all, the carnival music from the woods never stopped. It drilled into our skulls, a looping, insane soundtrack to our terror.
It rose and fell in pitch, sometimes sounding distant, other times as if the carousel was right outside our window. We huddled together in the living room, the darkness our only shield.
We didn't speak. What was there to say? Every creak of the old house, every rustle of leaves outside sent a jolt of pure adrenaline through us. Our eyes were fixed on the old grandfather clock against the wall. Its slow, deliberate ticking was the only sound in the house.
A metronome counting down the seconds of our lives.
1 o'clock became 2 o'clock.
The torment outside didn't waver.
We just watched the hands of the clock, praying for an end, any end.
Our desperate countdown was to 3 o'clock am. It was just a feeling, a desperate hope that the strange rules of this place were tied to the witching hour.
Tick, tock. Each second stretched into an eternity. The scratching at the window grew more frantic. A low, guttural breathing sound was right by the glass, fogging it up from the outside.
We squeezed our eyes shut, waiting for the shattering of glass, for the inevitable breach.
My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the clock's steady rhythm.
2:59.
The music swelled to a fever pitch, a chaotic shriek of pipes and bells. The growling became a chorus of rage.
The entire house seemed to vibrate with their fury.
This was it.
The final assault.
And then,
3 o'clock. As the final chime echoed through the silent room, it happened. A sudden, profound, impossible silence fell over the entire property.
It was so abrupt, so total, that it was more shocking than the noise had been. The growling vanished. The scratching ceased. The maddening carnival music just stopped.
The absence of sound was a physical presence, pressing in on us.
We stayed frozen for what felt like an hour, straining our ears, waiting for the trick. But there was nothing.
Only the gentle whisper of the wind through the trees.
Slowly, cautiously, I crawled to the window, my body trembling. I peeked through a tiny gap in the blinds.
The first faint light of dawn was painting the eastern sky in hues of grey and lavender.
The woods looked just like woods again, quiet, empty, peaceful. The monstrous shapes were gone. The nightmare was over.
We had survived the night. The relief was so overwhelming, it was painful.
We collapsed onto the floor, not in a heap, but just letting the tension drain out of us until we were puddles of exhaustion and trauma on the hardwood. Sleep was impossible. The terror was still wired into our nerves, a low hum beneath the surface.
As the sun rose higher, casting warm light into the house that had been our prison, one thing was crystal clear.
We had to leave. Not later. Not after we'd rested.
Now.
Immediately. We moved like robots, driven by the lingering adrenaline.
We threw clothes into suitcases, not caring what we grabbed.
We just needed to be gone. The house itself felt tainted, violated.
Every shadow seemed to hold a memory of the night's horrors.
While I was hauling bags to the front door, Sarah called my name.
Her voice was thin, strained.
She was standing by the desk in the study, the one where we'd so excitedly signed the papers just days before.
On top of a pile of mail lay the original property contract.
Mark, look, she whispered. I walked over, and my blood ran cold.
There, at the bottom of the page, below our own signatures, was a new line of text.
It was written in an elegant, looping, old-fashioned script, the ink a deep, dark black that seemed to absorb the light.
It hadn't been there before. I knew that with absolute certainty.
It read, "The property has been shown. The toll has been paid. The new caretakers have been chosen." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. The toll has been paid. The terror, the chase, the hours of torment. That was the price. A showing for whatever dark entity owned this land.
And we were the entertainment.
A cold, sickening dread washed over me, far worse than the fear I'd felt in the woods. This wasn't just a haunting. It was a transaction. I looked out the window at the peaceful, sun-dappled woods, and then back at Sarah. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with the same horrifying realization that was dawning on me.
We weren't just buying a house.
We were inheriting a position,
A duty.
a curse.
We were the new caretakers. We stood there, frozen by the implications, the contract a death sentence in our hands. And as the morning sun streamed through the window, making everything look so deceptively normal, a sound drifted in from the woods outside.
It was faint, almost imperceptible at first, but unmistakable. The gentle, lilting, familiar music of a carousel starting up once more. Thank you for watching the conclusion of The Midnight Property. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the darkness. Let me know in the comments what you think the caretakers have to do.
Until next time, stay safe.